Of course, it's
Hi,
all.
we're live. Hello, hello. I'm taking over. Hi. I hereby pronounce myself the goddess
Oh,
of the
really?
Great Debate community. Yes, I am now your overlord and your queen.
Okay, now that she's muted, welcome to the Insomnia Shuffle. We actually had a little bit of a conversation going prior to going on air, which of course is going to stay off air because that just seems to be how it works out. And seeing as we don't have a set topic today, I guess the topic can be Jackie as the new goddess of the Great Debate? What?
Wow.
I'm the ruler.
Okay, now that your foot's in it. I don't know, Great Debate Community. God, that term. Great.
Here's a, well, I guess it's more coherent than this other term that I've been hearing a lot of, atheist community. Is that even a meaningful term? Discuss.
Is this a meaningful term to discuss?
No.
Who are you, Neo?
No, it's not. You're wrong. End the story.
Oh, okay. The god.
I'm wrong. I wasn't saying it was. I was actually saying it wasn't.
Hmm.
There you go. I gotta say goodnight, guys. I'm gonna head to bed.
Oh wow, that was brief. Well, good having you.
Mm.
Oh, Stan. I'm gonna try and catch up with you in the next day or two to get your character squared away for the new.
Okay.
Anyway, actually, I have a weird question. Now, the first time I ran into Gretchen over here, it was pretty darn near her first hangout within the community.
It was absolutely my very first hangout.
And it was one that I felt the need to jump in and then make a video discussing, because, yeah, G-Man was being a turd as usual. But since then, have you really been participating in the proverbial debate community, or just kind of avoiding it like the plague, like smart people do?
I'm friends with a lot of people who happen to be atheists, so my life is very calm.
Mhm.
I can be the only theist in the room and nobody cares.
Yeah, because you're
In
like
fact,
reasonable.
me either. I don't care that I'm the only theist.
Well, normally, in terms of shuffles, we generally try to keep the religious, specifically theology out of it, but we'll talk about people in the community and this and that periodically, especially when somebody's doing something daft.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah.
But you know what I think it partly is because I don't come with an agenda to talk about anything, and so the conversation will go wherever it will go. But all I experience with other people who are theists who go into atheist rooms is they come in with an agenda, and that's why it gets really annoying. So
I've seen that from theists and atheists alike, though. I mean, it seems to be the MO that you run into a lot is people that, basically if somebody doesn't agree with them, and never forbid somebody that they assume is completely in their camp doesn't agree with them, oh no!
As Brian J. calls it, umbrage drama.
either that or maybe I'm just hanging around a lot of really mature people who don't mind that people think different ways. Wouldn't that be unique? It's like, oh.
Well, I'm starting to come to a really weird viewpoint, which is, I run into so many people that are religious by nature that annoy the heck out of me. Your Bible-thumping wingnuts and these kind of folks, the Calvinists predominantly. And then you have the unchurched church people that they're odd too. But the people that I seem to be getting along with most, in general, Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually why I kind of singled you out a little bit, because I'm like, you know what, I've kind of decided that the Catholics seem to be the most agreeable to Christians.
It's weird, isn't it?
Well, it's just that my parents attempted to raise me Roman Catholic, and it really, really didn't stick. None of it made any sense to me.
Which, that's fine,
It just, for me, it just obviously didn't work out, for whatever reason.
Sure.
But it seems like the Catholics are just more, they're not trying to jam stuff down your throat, and it's like being part of the nice country club as opposed to, the gang down the street.
I don't agree. I was raised kind of Roman Catholic, and they have a passive-aggressive way of spreading their theology. It's not like the fundamental evangelicals you find on YouTube, but it's more like, you know, this guilt trip that they constantly try to put on you.
Mm-hmm. I think also that's different from within as it is from without on the other side. And then I think it's also kind of a funny contrast. I mean, like when you think of the like the Crusaders kind of a Catholic, yeah, that's pretty fundamentalist raucous compared to now the people who are considered to be fundamentalists, you know, like your evangelicals of whatever stripe. That's what makes maybe the Roman Catholic appear more mellow, or the Orthodox. I don't know.
I can't think of a single time that I've had a Catholic knock on my door to try and get me to go to their church. I can't think of a single time I've seen one on a street corner screaming at people with a megaphone. It just doesn't happen.
Right, yeah. Not that I'm aware of, neither.
For that matter, I've never
Yeah,
had
but you got to remember they've been around a lot longer than a lot of these fundy Christians have, right? So, you know, there's a lot more Catholics out there than there are born-again Christians, right? So,
the funny thing is, though, I have to point this out really quick, though. The fun thing is, though, that you have the argument from popularity, basically. You know, well, there's more Catholics and more people believe this. Oh, sorry, not more Catholics, rather, more Christians, and then those same Christians say, but the Catholics don't count. It's like, wait a minute. There's 2.1 million Christian, and 1.1 billion of them are, billion, and 1.1 billion of those are Catholic. You've now made yourself second to Islam.
Yeah. Yep, I get a lot of that.
But
Sorry, go ahead.
And you go to like Europe, there's, you know, you have a big strong group of like, you know, Catholics out there, right? So pretty much everybody you know around you is Catholic unless you go to like certain areas. You got your Protestants and stuff, right? And when, you know, remember England is separated or is distancing themselves from the Vatican and stuff like that, right? You know, and on top of that, you go to like Bosnia where you have influences of the Ottoman Empire in the past, and you also have your Orthodox religion there too, right?
Right.
I mean, it's kind of fascinating though, because I mean, I think back to my childhood, and I grew up in Massachusetts, very Catholic, very Catholic, and everyone that I knew was Catholic, and I'm the oddball out there that, you know, everybody's sitting there and I'm like CCD, which is basically our, you know, religion study for kids, because Catholics actually want the kids to know something about the religion they're getting enrolled in, as opposed to, well, we'll leave that as it is. But so, you know, we're supposed to be learning about this and that, and they're like, you know, feel free to ask questions, and I started asking questions that made them uncomfortable and kept getting thrown out of classes. But so I mean, I'm the oddball there, and I'm like, why does everyone else seem to get this and I don't? And I remember there's a time in my youth, I'm like, there must be something wrong with me then. It was just really weird. I mean, I just couldn't buy it to begin with. It was just not in my nature, apparently. But now
some of the Catholics.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Some of the Catholics are pretty apathetic to their outside of their church life as well, right? You know, you kind of see that in like Epi and stuff, right? Yeah, he's in the debate community or whatever it's called, right? But on the other hand, I'm sure he's not sitting there pounding his Bible, other than, you know, him defending himself as a
he's pounding his philosophy texts.
He's pounding the philosophy text, damn straight. Yep.
I don't know. Yeah. You know, he's an interesting one. I'm sorry. I'll go after you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Gretchen, please.
No, so I think I had something more, and I didn't want to cut him off.
Oh no! You guys are barking up the right tree. I'm saying, he has his philosophy and stuff like that, and he pushes it. He puts it out there when he's on YouTube. But I'm sure on his day-to-day basis, he's not like G-Man sitting there with a megaphone on the street, right?
No.
Well, he's kind of an interesting one though, because being that he's a human being and not just like a label, right? He grew up Orthodox, and he became Roman Catholic as an adult. So even though he is Roman Catholic, he still has so much a way about him that's incredibly culturally orthodox, that the way he describes things and the way that he even goes into exchanges and communications with somebody else, he uses many orthodox ways that he organizes his talks. So much so that, I mean, I don't know who put that squirrel there, but it's really cute.
That's Char.
That, as Orthodox, we actually really, we kind of consider him kind of like our little pet mascot. It's like we let him be part of the Orthodox.
Effie's so cute.
Because he's so cute, exactly, and we kind of don't mind. And he understands the other part of it, so we can talk about things with him that, we don't get the silliness of, oh, well, you must be praying idols, or whatever. So it's kind of interesting about him, but yeah, he is very much influenced by philosophies. And yes, as far as him in his personal life, I do think that he does have that dedication, but that he probably doesn't express it the same way that maybe G-Man would.
No, he's actually very scholarly in his approach, typically, which I appreciate. I can talk with Epi till the cows come home. I mean, he's a great guy, and we can talk. And I've talked with him on multiple subjects, and on theology we can go back and forth. And I tried to hit him with a tough one the other day, and a shuffle that I ended up having to purge because of me dozing off. Because I'm not going to go back and watch 4 hours to figure out what I missed. But I got in this interesting conversation with him because. Okay, I'm going to get into theology for a moment because I have to explain what the hell I'm talking about. Now, Paul is the one in the New Testament that speaks against homosexuality in essence. Now, granted, if you go back to the original Greek, what it's technically talking about is prostitution. But that's beside the point because nobody goes back to the Greek to figure out what they're technically talking about, so whatever. Even as it's written, it's just Paul. But at the same point, Paul also says that the Jews are bound by the Old Covenant, and the Gentiles are not. But when he's speaking of the prohibitions against homosexuality, etc., he's referring to the Old Covenant, which the Gentiles aren't actually forced to abide by. That's the same as wearing 2 different kinds of fabric or not eating shellfish. That's the same kind of prohibition as those. So why should Gentile Christians, non-Jewish Christians, really give any credence to that? Basically one phrase or 2 phrases, basically, where he's talking about homosexuality. Why should they put such weight to it when Paul's speaking as, if I remember correctly, wasn't Paul a Jewish scholar?
Yes. And I have an answer for that, unless anybody wants to play around with it.
Please, by all means.
Okay, my understanding of it has to do with, like in kindergarten, if you don't bring cupcakes for everybody, you can't bring your cupcakes for your birthday, that kind of thing. Or the opposite, when someone gets in trouble, everybody gets in trouble, kind of thing. That's what I really think a lot of it has to do with, because and many times he was talking to groups of people who were, living in very debaucherous places. So there were people who were prostitutes, there were people who were in different types of sex cults. But all of that notwithstanding, the part of it that was the worst expression had to do with what happens during war, rape and pillage, and that's something that happens within men during war, and that's what was being talked about. Nothing having to do with relationships or love or anything that's familiar to us as what would be, a romantic couple who happen to be 2 men or 2 women or whatever. So, I think it was that kind of a thing. And that's just culturally what I've picked up. I have no backing for anything of what I'm saying. That's just the way I understand it and think of it. And that's another reason why even though the church won't sanction a marriage or anything like that, we're definitely taught that there's absolutely nothing wrong with love that draws people together, and that can happen with any configuration.
My kind of problem, though, with the resistance to, so to speak, sanctioning it, is this notion that, okay, it's sinful for a man to be with a man or a woman to be with a woman. Well, of course it is, because they're not allowed to get married. But if they get married, because extramarital sex is supposed to be well, if they made it so they could get married, then would it still be a sin? And that's kind of this weird trick question.
And here's this fun little part with me, because just because as an Orthodox, if you're then subject to, you've committed yourself to those rules, let's say, what have you, but that has something to do with the rest of the world, and that does not mean that those are sinful for anybody else. And that's another reason why I always make sure that I vote for the minority supportively, and why, you know, I would have no problem going to anybody's gay wedding, because people love each other, you know. So I think it's a problem when someone happens to be gay and they're Orthodox if they don't want to be celibate. That's when it's an issue. So, but other Orthodox would tell you differently. They would see it completely differently. All they tell you about was sin, 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 sin. But you can't be standing in your sin. You can't be, for your beingness isn't sinful. And Epi actually, he even talks about that.
Yeah, I actually now one of the things I do kind of as a I guess as a hobby is I'd like to mess with what I refer to as pseudo apologetics.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why I call it pseudo apologetics is because it's basically taking what's in there, what I've figured out about the text and this kind of stuff, and try to figure a way to, so to speak, correct some of the stuff that's, I think, mistreated.
That's important. That's important. I like that you are critical of it that way.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, it's, here's this book. There's some value in it. There's some things that I think are atrocious, predominantly in the way that they're taught in more cases than not. But yeah, there's some horrible things in there, and there's some stuff that's not horrible. Some stuff that's, there's even some good in there. I don't mind admitting that. It doesn't matter whether I follow it or not.
Right.
There's some good things in Harry Potter, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And my wife's the one that would tell you that it shouldn't matter whether you're listening to the radio or reading any book. It doesn't matter. You should be able to get, if you're going to get some kind of message, it should be as much out of heavy metal as it is out of a psalm or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people are sola scriptura and don't look at it that way, and I think that they're missing out on a lot. So there's a lot of what I would consider to be squares that need to have those corners rounded off because they're a little too pointy.
Yeah, and absolutely, you're right as far as because there's no variety of Catholic, Roman, or Orthodox, because we have tradition, and that's what the Bible comes out of, is tradition. So for all the people who say that they don't believe in tradition, well, then give me back my Bible. It's like the silliest thing ever.
But I mean, there are some traditions, though, that have been spread by people with varied agendas, and sometimes it's a matter of looking beyond that. If this book were to be written, all people, all times, blah, 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 like they kind of try to claim, well, then it should still speak to people without the weird ancient biases. And I've made this shuffle about religion, go figure.
So how did you do that?
I haven't got to talk to you in a while, Gretchen. I've missed you.
I know. I've missed you too, actually, a lot. But can I be here and not talk about faith? Unless, really, you're totally gung-ho.
No. I think I'm pretty much done with it.
Thank goodness. And I haven't met, Becky, and I haven't met Shar. So please introduce me.
Hi.
Hi.
Shar is also a squirrel, just like you and I.
I see.
Then there's the mighty Jade.
Yes, I don't know how well you can hear me. I wasn't really planning on joining, so I didn't put on my good microphone.
Oh, you're coming in okay?
Okay, good. Yeah.
I just came to Zoom.
Yeah. I'm Turbo Squirrel, but my real name is Jade, but I use the Turbo Squirrel icon there.
Wow.
Turbo Snail.
Yeah.
Turbo Snail.
No, Gretchen is.
So now we have.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say Gretchen is a squirrel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So there's 3 squirrels, and now that Kazoom has joined, we have 2 queers in the room. Hi, Kazoom.
I'm 3.
Kind of been a long time.
3.5.
Well, now that I'm done with my weird little thing, because I haven't had a chance to run that particular pseudo-apologetic past everyone, let's get to a normal shuffle. I'm sorry, whatever. Y'all take the floor. So how you doing, How you doing, Jade?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm working on some I'm still working on that that hangout that I'm going to do. I've got it almost all done. It's a lot of research, but it should be fun. It's about misconceptions about evolution, but it's about more than that because I'm going into history and looking at the context. So I'm looking at the Victorian era, and I'm looking at language and the use of language as well. So, I'm going to have fun with that.
Oh yeah, and then tomorrow we have a hangout that's going on my channel about Reginity. And if anyone wants to watch that, it's at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
And 3 p.m. in the only time zone that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. 3 p.m. in the West Coast time.
The Best Coast? I thought it was West Coast. Did you pronounce that wrong? Oh, wait, no, you didn't. You meant that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody recently was talking about doing a retrospective hangout. I did a retrospective, my 6-year retrospective, a while ago on my channel. Back when
that was Jordy, because he's 4th year on YouTube anniversary.
No, he's 6. No, he's just hitting 6.
Okay.
Yeah, he is now about the same age as me on here. He's been on here almost as long as I have. And I'm thinking that might be a great idea. I mean, we don't really talk about, the nature of YouTube and YouTubers, and a lot of people come along that are fairly new to the community, and they're like, "What the heck am I dealing with these people? What's with all the weirdness and the drama and this and that?" Because people have such history with each other. Some of it good, some of it bad. And why does the facts of life just come to mind? Stop that.
And now that the theme from that show is going through my head.
Yeah, I can't stop it. Please make it stop.
I don't know. George Clooney was good looking then too.
Is it all about when George Clooney's good looking?
It works for me.
Oh, okay. I will put that out as my measuring stick. I'll have to figure out how this works.
Maybe I found another word that worked from my little thingy I'm doing here.
Oh yeah, just a heads up. I'm really, really sleepy. So if, I'm slurring my words and you need me to, repeat myself, just tell me.
Oh, no sleepy.
I'm also, when I'm
wait. You can't be sleepy up to awake because Benaberry's in the house.
Oh, Benaberry? Benaberry's here!
Oh, dear.
Oh, he is too.
She responds to Benaberry like she does to puppies. Gotta love it.
Puppy! Not quite.
Oh.
Not quite.
Now you get higher pitched on the puppies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shit.
Puppies! Kevin!
I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
Kevin's a token puppy, easy.
I'm actually just looking at the news to see what's new and interesting, and I'm just glancing here, and apparently China launches its first mission to the moon and back. And I'm wondering if this is their first actual mission, or if it's just the first one that somebody actually volunteered for.
As opposed to not volunteered for.
Yes.
Wait, Benaberry isn't muted.
I know, he's teetering. He can talk.
Yes, he can actually talk. He's not a robot.
But if you talk about him talking, he'll retreat.
He'll have to say, there we go, got it.
So he'll retract himself back to the comment section.
Don't scare him off.
But I've always...
Benaberry, when in the wild, is a very strange animal.
Yeah, I can close the Q&A. Benaberry's in here.
It's baby steps. First I post and then you can hear me posting. Ooh.
And of course, everybody's sitting there going, "Whose voice was that?"
God?
Your wife.
That was God from Down Under.
Oh, it's the Australian God. Well, that doesn't count.
Spoiler alert, God's
Oh,
an
upside down.
Yes, the land where Santa rides a surfboard.
The wrong way. So.
See, that's why Jackie can't leave, because she's our leader. She's our goddess of the show.
Someone's got us.
Kevin.
Sorry, I'll behave.
As if.
Okay, you don't have to behave.
This has to be.
Really weird. There's like no profanity in here unless Lenny comes in, apparently.
Oh.
Shit.
Fuck, shit, cunt.
Okay, there we go.
Bullshit.
Now he's here in spirit.
Fuck you, say?
Well, let's see. Oh, we got one slot left in case he decides to show his face.
Okay.
He might not. He might be enjoying his apartment.
Maybe he's having happy time with Levi.
Oh.
I don't know. He could also be going, I get to run around naked.
Yeah.
He might be breaking. Yeah, he might be breaking his apartment, putting his seed all over the walls and stuff, right?
Oh God, shut the fuck up.
That's
He did get a new couch. He did get a new couch. So.
Yeah, he got a couch and some other stuff. He was showing us around the new place earlier via webcam.
Yeah.
It was actually kind of cute how, oh, look, and I have this place to myself for 3 days. I'm like, yeah, you're saying that now. Give it about 2 days, you'll be going out of your mind. They'll be like, what did she get here?
Oh my god.
I'm sorry. I'm so trying to get over what I think technically started the conversation earlier, which was Pat Robertson issuing a statement that Christians can raise the dead, they just don't.
Oh yeah.
I was taught that. I was taught that it was possible.
What's
that
the
it
deal?
was rare because it required
cat.
so much faith.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Jackie, I know you want to ask more Sash, but let other people speak, please. Claiming to be Queen of Great Debate Community does not count for much in here.
I think the beautiful reality is definitely trying to raise the dead. Did you hear about his special campaign? We all need to really dig deep in our pockets about this one.
Yes, if you guys, if I can speak on it for a second.
Oh, by all means, the great and mighty Alexander must speak. It is Alexander the Great tonight.
Yes, I have this new charity, and I really need everyone to dig deep into their hearts and deep into their wallets to give, charitably to the Get G-Man Laid Foundation. Now,
I would like to suggest you contact Neffy because I understand he has all the appropriate phone numbers.
Oh yeah, I contact Neffy, but here's the synopsis of it. Gary Moore is a 40-year-old virgin who's in desperate need of a tang. Gary is forever making terrible rap songs, false accusations, confessing to stealing money after a night of dumpster diving, consistently having grammar errors, lying, being a complete dork, dick riding, bedazzling hats, wanking Beckel videos, ball counting, street preaching, and keeping a prayer journal. Won't you help?
I'm wondering if we shouldn't maybe also have some kind of foundation for get him a vasectomy. Just to make sure that,
we want to come in together and help him walk out that door without the bullhorn.
Hang on there. Shar, are you stipulating that his voice is not a valid form of birth control?
Well, no, but if you're getting him laid, you're overriding that form of birth control, are you not? Right.
Only if he keeps his mouth closed.
Yeah, there you go.
Out of curiosity, Alexander, are you trying to get him laid by a male or a female?
Well, it doesn't really matter at this point. It's matter here, you know.
Well,
Like,
it does in terms of the gene pool.
Is
A
this
little.
some kind of attempt to, in terms of his rapping, at least, so he can learn rhythm?
no, well, he probably can learn rhythm after, getting some tang, but, it's just the ultimate goal is to stop the cycle of continuous self-ponage and irony bombs. I mean, let's help Gary achieve this goal. Dial now at 1-800-GET-COOCH. That's 1-800-GET-COOCH. That's
1-800.
That's the part of the commercial where play the Sarah McLachlan, Eyes of an Angel.
Wow.
Oh dear.
So for those of you
You,
that are watching,
if he gets laid, he's gonna say that's a proof for like answered prayer, right?
Maybe so. I'll let him have that. I'll let him have that.
Well, wait a minute. Only if he has sex with a can of soup.
oh, we're back to the soup thing, are we?
Whatever helps. Whatever helps.
In the
what's
arms
your noodle?
of an angel.
I can't even afford the track, so it'll just be me singing in the background.
Oh, Ricky, we gotta get the show.
Wow. Okay.
I gotta get that old dude from the Child Fund commercial, the one with the big beard, Won't you help Gary Moore get out of his house without his bullhorn? Dial now, 1-800-GET-COOCH.
Isn't it sad that somebody known as Moore gets so much less than you?
So, does that make you the king pimp and we're all your, like, mini pimps?
The arrangement was
Hang on, I haven't done my official bit yet. Hello and welcome for those of you who are watching this Insomnia Shuffle. Just as a reminder, what goes on in the shuffle stays in the shuffle, meaning that after this show is done, it'll be changed to unlisted and only be available by those who shared it via Google+. This is Insomnia Shuffle tradition, and if you're an idiot and think that we should leave this as public and break that tradition, go pound sand. You're an idiot. You don't get it. Anyway, go ahead.
Or if you have access, if I've given you access to my Filthy Shuffle playlist. Sorry, fundamentally flawed. No fun for you.
Okay, now back to G-Man's Lacko Tang.
Yeah.
Also, remember, call 1-800-GET-COOCH.
I mean, come on, they even had Tang on the space shuttle.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
This episode will be hashtag get Tang. You gotta put that hashtag.
I think it definitely should be left as public.
There have been some really good ones that are on unlisted, and I'm like, man, no, it's breaking the rules. I got my rules.
I've given links out to certain shuffles.
Oh yeah.
Like the Prudent one. There's a few people who have seen that.
Yeah, when I very first started doing shuffles, it was just, something to do, hang out, entertaining, make it live for the sake of, being able to entertain some other folks. Mm-hmm. And what I would do is I'd then change it to unlisted. And back then, this was before it was automatically on Google anyway. And I'd change it to unlisted so that anyone that participated could use whatever clips they wanted for their own use. But it wasn't something that I planned on, having as being a permanent fixture. And it's kind of vaguely become one. But it's kept with that tradition, it goes unlisted, people that participate can use their bits as they wish, whatever, doesn't matter.
Do the public shuffle at some point.
We have plans for that.
We have plans for a public unshuffle, and in that public unshuffle we'll be talking a little bit about Alex Botten.
Oh.
But only at the end of it. People are going to have to watch to figure out where
Stop picking on him.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hang on a second.
I've been a bird.
Hey there.
How's it going?
Hey, McSnitty.
He's smack knitting.
Yeah. Smagnity doesn't like his mixed up like that. Smitty.
Max Schmitty.
Be next Smitty. That'd be the backwards. Next Smitty. Yeah, man. No, I was sitting there just watching this latest crazy fucking video, and I was like, this guy needs some pussy. Or ass, you know, whatever suffices, whatever helps. He just needs his rock soft, his pebble soft.
Well, I'm prepared to go door knocking and get a collection up.
I go to local churches.
Yeah, I go to local churches.
Start throwing that.
Picture of him and claim that you're raising money to get him a hat that does not look idiotic.
Right. We're gonna give him
raising funds to get him a better hat.
Yeah, we'll give him a better hat that instead of him bedazzling it, it's just gonna have rhinestones that said "I love Jesus," so that it at least have some style.
Maybe that'll be a fabulous hat.
It'll say "Jesus loves me" hard.
Fabulous.
Jesus loves me in all the wrong ways.
In all the wrong places.
Yeah, it's kind of my number one criticism against a lot of people I see with these religious bumper stickers, because they'll have, you know, the big thick-necked redneck driving around his big old pickup with all these "I love Jesus" and "Jesus loves me" and I feel the Lord inside me and all these other things, and not once does it say "no homo."
No.
You gotta say pause. Jesus is in me. Pause. Every time you say something questionable, you have to say pause.
Yeah, there's a point at which it's kind of like, okay, you're making this sound creepy. Stop it.
All right. Jesus is inside of me. You.
Yeah.
I wish I can, like, I might even do this as a video once when I might do a video of, like, I'll take a TV televangelist, and when they're talking, you know, they'll say something like, Jesus is inside me and you, and I'll go like, well, wow, he's skilled. The guy got some skills. Yeah.
Oh dear.
You mean at the same time? Goddamn. Jesus Christ. Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, let me lay hands on you. And
back it up a little weird.
Back it up.
Tell me where they laid hands on you, please.
Now on the doll.
Point to the spot on the doll where the Holy Spirit touched you.
Okay, wait.
We all started to say the same thing at the same time.
Hang on, I've got a story coming on.
There's always a doll.
I've got a story coming on. There was this place I used to go to. It's kind of like Denny's IHOP kind of place up in the Northeast. And what would happen is I'd go there with a buddy of mine, and we'd sit there and go to that little claw machine. And one day we got a priest out of it, this little priest doll. And I'm like, a priest doll? Really? That's what I end up with? Fine. So we're sitting there doing just ridiculous things to this priest doll. And the manager comes over and he's like, oh man, guys? I'm like, what? Are you offended? He's like, no, there's a cop that comes in regularly that works with troubled kids that wanted the priest doll, figuring the kids would be more comfortable talking to the priest doll. And I'm like, well, what kind of kids? He's like, you know, kids that are abused and molested and this kind of stuff. Oh, the fucking irony. Now, decades later, with all the stuff that's come out, I'm sitting there thinking there'd be kids that are like, no, Father O'Malley, no, Father O'Malley, no! Oh.
It's said that if you lay with another man, it's voice.
It's what? Say that again?
You broke up, dude.
What's that, Smacknitty?
As I said, the Bible says if you lay with another man, it's an abomination. It says nothing about little boys.
Actually does.
Oh, man.
Actually, it technically does. But only if you're related to them.
Wow.
Only. That's terrible.
No, Carson, I did a video called like, it was like Sex in the Bible or something like that. And it goes over the naughty no list. And I crack a lot of jokes that they kind of forgot one in there. It's still inferred from one of the other ones, but, you know. It's like, you got one.
I want to see this video.
No, it's me trying too hard to be funny.
Find it.
Kevin, I don't ever look for my links. Kevin finds them before I can. It's not worth my. It's yeah. Like yeah, sure. It's on my channel. It's what's the name? Kevin posts a link. It's like yeah.
I can't even count the number of times I've heard Kevin say something like "I'll find it" or "Let me look it up" or "I'll get it."
No, he beats me every freaking time. I think he just likes showing off his internet prowess.
But he always does it like
Whatever.
with so much disdain in his voice. Like, I don't want to do it, but I will. Damn you.
Did
What?
Jackie fall asleep?
Maybe she did. Oh,
Jackie.
Oh, darling.
She's
Aww.
tired.
Jackie. She had to work.
Puppies.
I mean, to school, which is.
Puppy.
There we go.
Okay, I was hoping I wasn't gonna have to do this, but it looks like okay. Ah,
Puppy.
No.
Jackie, are you falling asleep? Huh? You need to wake up. Yeah. Hi.
I'll wake up. I'll
You
wake up.
Either wake or go to
Yeah.
bed. Come on. Make up your mind.
I'll wake up.
Jackie, you have
Mr.
school
Squirrel.
tomorrow. You have to go to
No.
school tomorrow.
I
No,
know I
she
don't
doesn't have
have
class on
school.
Friday.
Then wake up, damn it.
Yeah.
Grow up.
Okay, waking up.
Wake up.
Hey, girl. Don't make
There
me
you
get
go.
all stuffy with
Smack
you.
yourself around if you need to. It's all good. If you had work, I'd be like, go to bed.
No, I don't have classes on Friday, so.
Then you should stay up.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay up, so I can be up more tomorrow.
Okay, let's get her off camera now.
Wait, person, you can't see chat, right?
Only the external.
Yeah, put
Okay, I will share this with you on Google Plus.
Okay.
For show.
And thanks as always.
Yes.
Oh,
Where's
okay.
Lenny?
I don't know.
Okay, I see your link now, Jade. I will look through it.
And somebody posted a comment on the shuffle stating, quote, this again. Yes, that's why I say same old usually in the description. Because it's the same old, but it's always different.
Unfriendly dot person.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Just in case. Hi, Raul. Go to bed.
I
No one
don't
loves
know
you.
if it's I don't know if it's Raul this time. Because
I don't know.
that person.
That's why I said just in case.
Yeah. He's been commenting on a lot of my stuff, and I appreciate what he brings to when he comments. Yeah, the unfriendly person. He tends to have some interesting stuff.
Okay. If he's not, going and trolling you, then okay.
No,
probably not.
I don't really necessarily know who he is, but he strikes me as more the good-natured trolling so far. I don't know. And I certainly like rolling with that.
He's a good dude, for sure.
Okay.
Like Venaberry trolls sometimes.
No, that's not trolling. That's honest inquiry.
Well, at least he's not being prudent.
Yeah.
Freaking turn on my camera, then I walk back outside where it's dark as shit. What's wrong with me?
Well, somebody like me might actually show in the dark.
I glow in the dark. I'm not even kidding. I'm so white.
You're so white.
My lens already glows in the dark.
I hardly noticed how white you were, Kevin. I didn't even know. I thought maybe you're mixed or something.
Yeah, he's mixed. The shirt's black.
Oh, that'll do it.
My skin glows when I point the light at it. That's why I don't use that one.
Kevin, are you a redhead? Are you?
He's a natural redhead.
Are you a gingerbread?
No, I am what is known as dishwater blonde.
Dishwater blonde, huh?
As in dirty dishwater blonde. Mm-hmm. Have to have the dirty in there.
Yeah, dirty blonde. Yeah, I'm a dirty blonde.
Dirty. I need D in here.
Dirty. Yes.
Yeah, if I don't have D to say dirty, it doesn't count.
Kevin, you dirty little piggy.
Oh my God!
That was great. That was wonderful.
You dirty little piggy. Do you know what I do to little piggies, Kevin? I do very nice to piggies.
Okay, it's getting weird. Weird.
Okay, you're really weird.
That's my smack nitty right there. I tend to do very naughty things to little piggies, Kevin.
Ew.
You probably want to know what they are, but I'm not going to tell you.
Squeal like a pig! Squeal like a pig!
Are we talking potbelly pigs or those little ones that people have as pets? Yeah, never mind.
Oh,
micro pigs?
Kevin, you little piggy. Oh, Kevin's a little
Aww, with
micro
raincoats
piggy,
and booties.
Okay, stop. Stop hitting on my Kevin.
Aww. We're not gonna hit on Kevin. I won't hit on him right now.
Much.
Just kidding.
When you fall asleep again, though, he's fair game.
I can't wait to see you, Kevin.
I don't think that's how relationships work.
I can't wait to see you at dinner. What is that?
Ben
That didn't sound like Benaberry.
Benaber?
He has
That
a
was
wife.
Benaberry's woman.
So.
Yeah, he's actually married.
Yeah.
Benaber?
I'm learning so much about him this week. He exists.
Yeah, I believe it might have been wife of Barry.
Oh. Wife
Wait,
of
That was Mrs. Berry.
Yes, wife of
was-
Barry, Mrs. Barry. Yeah.
Mrs. Cranky Berry, apparently.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
She's been working hard today.
Yeah, I have a cranky lady Red here every day when she gets home from work, so I understand. gives her an hour about an hour to calm down, and then she's herself.
She has her wine, so she's getting there.
Hey Carson, does this make me look even more like Jesus?
Does that make like what?
Does this make me look even more like Jesus?
Yeah, yes it does with the brick light. Yeah.
Actually, if you turned your camera slightly so it looked like the light was directly behind your head, it would give you a great halo.
I like the gloves.
What, Jackie? What?
Oh, I was gonna say the same thing about the Halo thing.
I can't see.
I did that in a video, actually. It was fun.
There you go. There you go. Oh. No, all you need is a fan blowing the hair, and it'll be funny.
Yeah, I have one. That's too much work.
Does this mean I have a relationship with Jesus?
Your own
Yes.
personal
Yes,
Jesus.
You have a personal relationship with Jesus.
We all do.
Am
We just deny it. We all have one.
Yes, we all have a personal relationship with Jesus, just not many of us have an intimate relationship with him.
I used to, and then he stopped calling.
Oh, never right.
He stopped calling.
Did Jesus friend zone you?
He friend zoned me, man.
What a bastard.
Yeah. He
Fuck
let
that guy.
he let me hit it once, and then that was it. He just stopped talking to me. He doesn't respect me. He said, Alexander, we just can't do this anymore. And I was like, why, Jesus? Why? And he's like, well, I'm starting to think you don't have faith in me anymore. And I was like, what do you mean, Jesus? What do you mean? And he's like, you stopped believing in me. And I was like, I believe in you, Jesus. I love you. He's like, you don't love me. You love what I can do.
You know what I can do for you, baby.
Wow.
Like, Jesus, I could change. I could change.
Weirdly enough, I actually feel like trolling myself. Go figure.
What do you do?
Yeah. Hang on a second. Let's see if I can do this for the heck of it.
I'm still stuck on the fact that G-Man said he would crush my nuts like jelly beans.
Ooh. That's
Like,
so graphic.
Yeah, he's
like Jello pudding
Wow,
pops.
I didn't know he was
Oh wait,
that.
hold on. Hold on. Everybody be quiet. I have to see this.
Here's what I've got queued up. embrace your inner teapot. We must be willing to reach out to the universe and understand that within each of us is a little teapot. Here's the handle, and here is the spout. There we go. Had to troll myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very sexy Jesus right there. Very sexy Jesus.
Yep, raccoon tails for the hair. Needed the extra hair. Had the raccoon tails lying around.
Tin foil wrapped around the headset.
And what did you do with the rest of the raccoon?
Only the raccoon knows.
You have to join the club to find that information out. It's privileged.
I should have said that.
Unless you take your courses first.
I should have probably done the only the shadow knows kind of voice for that. Oh well.
You took the raccoon to the shadow, and he came back.
If you were my grandfather, I would assume you ate it because that's what he did to raccoons. He ate them. He hunt raccoons and he ate them. Yes, my granddad used to always have me and my brothers go and get whatever strange meat from the downstairs basement, and he would go get that red bag out of the freezer down there. And it's like, we already know what the red bag consists of. It's all these little faces, and we were all freak out. And it's like, no.
Well, wait, Carson, don't you live in the South?
No. I live in Minnesota.
Okay. So where you live, hunting coons isn't a regular thing then.
No, my grandfather.
I had to.
Oh God!
My grandfather.
Oh man.
My grandfather used to. He came from Alabama, but he moved to Kankakee, Illinois, which is pretty country.
I know where that is.
Yeah, it's kind of country. It's kind of country, and so he used to hunt raccoons, and there was one time, right? Me and my cousins, and we used to all just be in grandma's house. It was just everyone used to always be in grandma's house, and they were cooking. My grandma was cooking, and my granddad was constantly just looking over. Now he never used to be in the kitchen while she's cooking. It's just something he just did. He just never did that, and but he kept having this interest of how this particular meal was prepared, right? So it finished, and we all had a bowl of this soup, and we finished the soup, and we're like, oh, that was great. I had seconds, and then I was like, well, what soup was this? And that's turtle soup. And I was like, turtle soup? And I almost had that reaction like Stewie Griffin when he realized he was sucking on Peter's nipples. I was almost like...
I was in China. I was in China with this couple once. Me and my husband were there, and this couple so we're ordering at this weird restaurant, and he ordered something. We all ordered something, but this other guy, they delivered it, and it was this basket, and there was this turtle in it. It was just like a full turtle that looked boiled or steamed or something.
Oh, wow.
And they gave him gloves and a bib to wear. And they just gave him a full turtle, and he goes, I have no idea how to eat this. I just figured since I'm in China, I should eat a turtle, right?
Like that, they expected him to go full turtle.
Well, yeah. He's like, I just thought I'd order something different, but I didn't know it would be a turtle.
Oh no!
That sounds like a euphemism. That sounds like a euphemism. Like, oh, dude, I went out with this girl last night. Like, yeah, and I went full turtle.
Yes, but just remember, before you go full turtle, snap the bowl.
Slow and steady.
Turtle cooked in durian.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Dude,
slow and steady when it's
You gotta be slow and steady when you go full turtle.
The sad thing is, turtles are still cute even after they've been boiled.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. It was just like he had trouble with it, but he tried to anyway. He ate a bunch.
Well, you'd have to go in through the carapace, which is underneath.
You tear it apart, and then you just start eating. And I just
oh, that's weird.
There were things in China that were very disturbing to see, like dogs being roasted and They skin frogs live because
No.
they're fresher. Yeah, like there's just things like that. Like you see that and you're just like, ah. God knows what I ate. God knows, because I don't. things that like when you order vegetarian spring rolls and they're full of meat, I don't know what they mean by vegetarian, because that's not what we call it here, right?
Yeah.
So did you eat any insects?
I ate bee larvae accidentally. I thought it was rice. I was like, what is this? This is rice? Bee larvae. It was fine though, actually. That was fine. I don't really have problems with things like larvae and worms. I couldn't bring myself to eat anything with wings and legs, and couldn't do it. I probably did eat dog. I think I did eat dog at least once, because that's a very common food over in China. Like
that sounds like another euphemism.
No, actual canine.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I know, but I mean, it's the thing is, to them, like cattle. It's like raising pigs or chickens or anything else. They raise dogs as food, and you know. To me, it's more about how you treat an animal and how you kill an animal than what animal it is. Because I personally, the way we treat chickens in North America it's an abomination. It's terrible, and that bothers me.
Pigs make really nice pets. I mean, if you can handle having something that big, but they're actually very friendly, very intelligent.
Yep, and pretty clean actually. Yeah.
Yeah, they're smart. Yeah, they're clean if you give them a chance to be clean. Our idea of a dirty pig is because of the way we raised them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, I'm one of those stupid people that pays for eggs because they buy the free range.
I do too.
On the dirty pig thing and the cultural thing, I've got to jump in on that for a moment, because there was a really fun article that I was reading a while ago. There are some tribes in Africa where the pig is revered. It's considered a very important animal because their cultures are so focused around pigs and boars and what have you. And when the early missionaries went there and tried to talk to them and did the whole sheep thing, like in the Bible, the shepherd and the sheep and this and that, did not translate well. They didn't know what a sheep was. They had to use pigs instead.
It really transformed my life. It allowed me to become the statesman.
My bad.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm glad that it transformed somebody's life.
I accidentally pressed something when I was trying to read a comment. Someone left a comment on one of my Batshit Crazy Christian videos, and I wanted to see who it was. Someone says, ha ha ha, this is so fucking funny. Oh, well, that's great.
Oh.
I'm glad you think it's
What an intelligent comment.
All right, yeah.
Actually, speaking of comments, I'm going to respond to one just because I feel like it. It's one made by that quote unfriendly person. And I hear this kind of stuff a lot. This Jesus was color X. Now, simply put, Jesus was Middle Eastern. He was Jewish.
Yes.
He would have been nappy-haired and dark-skinned, not necessarily black, and certainly not white. He would have been Jewish.
Right.
From representative of that time period. And as for the early Hebrew art, if you were to go by that, the Hebrews were whatever color the vase was that they happened to be painting them on.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, he looked like a Mediterranean Jew, not like an Ashkenazi European Jew with the pale skin. He would have looked like a Mediterranean Jew with the darker skin. And the curly hair and the big nose.
Yep.
Well, I heard something recently, and I mean, I don't know any of this stuff, but I heard that Caucasian, comes from the Caucasus Mountains, and that those people are not white.
I don't know about that. They're Europeans. They're European.
I'd have to.
I know, but I heard they were sort of more like a Grecian or like sort of a Southern European.
Well, they might have been. I don't really know.
Yeah. I don't know either. I just find that funny because.
Well, even Southern Europeans aren't white.
Well,
Yeah,
that's what
so
I mean. I've been through Greece and Spain and a few places, and there are
Italy,
some
southern
people there that
France.
are not. Yeah, and there are
Yeah.
people there that are not quite. They're not. They've got darker skin.
Well, on
You know?
my
So,
family,
I don't
one
know.
side of my family are black Irish and olive skinned.
Ah.
My mother
Well,
had
then
olive.
I have somewhat darker skin too. Like I'm half German, half Ukrainian, but my skin's darker than a lot of people's. Well, not really darker, but
Yeah, I know.
tan a lot. Yeah.
What color skin was the mailman?
Yeah.
Would have been the milkman actually, and who knows because
Okay.
we never saw the guy.
I'm pretty.
I'm definitely my father's child.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah. I'm pretty pink. I've always thought it funny that people talk about white people and especially white pride when it really should be pink people.
Maybe.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, it's so silly. You know, next time somebody goes white pride, tell them no, it's pink pride.
Yeah. No, I'm one of those people that tans like crazy. Like my skin's always a couple shades darker than a lot of other people's, and
Well, mine does too, even as pale as I am. But that's because I have this genetic trait that allows me to change color in the sun. It's not tanning, folks. I actually will change color during the day in the sun, and it keeps me from burning. I don't burn very easily, and even as pale as I am, I get pretty tan. Matter of fact, I've got to tell you guys this because this is one of those like funny but sad things. So I grew up in the 50s, right? And every single night, the nuns suggested that we watch TV and read the newspaper so that we knew what was going on. And my parents always watched the news, so I watched the news with them. So I grew up during the whole civil rights era, and that's what was on TV every single night, and that's what was in Time Magazine and Life and in our newspapers every single day, where you had black people in the South were just trying to fucking vote, and you had all these horrible-looking monster creatures like ogres and trolls with their white skin and their sweaty red faces and screaming obscenities trying to keep them from voting. So I heard all this stuff, and I saw pictures, because I grew up in Southern California, coastal Southern California, where there are people of all different colors and places of origin and stuff like that. So this was really weird to me. I saw all these signs, in the magazines and stuff where the restrooms would say colored, or the drinking fountain would say colored. And I walked up to my mom one day and I said, "What color do they mean?" Because I grew up around people who were Lebanese, Asian, Greek, Italian, and Pacific Islander, and every African American, just about everything you could think of, and it was I couldn't figure out what color they were talking about. How did you divide it? And my mom had to sit me down and explain to me that in the South things weren't so diverse. I still didn't get it. But here's the sort of funny, sad part. So, I'm like, 7 years old? And remember, I tan really well. Well, I was terrified of the South because of all these images I saw. I was absolutely terrified of the South. I thought it was this horrific place, absolutely horrible. And I was absolutely determined, because how you're a child and you believe in magic? And you watch TV and you read all this stuff, so I made the determination that if for some horrible reason magic sent me to the South and I found myself there, just to be on the safe side, I'd use the colored restrooms and drink out of the colored drinking fountain.
That's freaking cute.
Because I didn't understand the whole color thing, and I tanned really well. But yeah, it was just, even as an adult, a bunch of us were sitting around one day, and as a group of us, we were of Mexican, Asian, Japanese specifically, black, white, a bunch of stuff in between, and we were talking about how we grew up, and we were talking about how we were adults, like in our early 20s, and we were talking about how we always wanted to go visit America. We all grew up with See the USA and Your Chevrolet and Diana Shore and all that. And about how, wouldn't it be fun to see the coast of Maine? Wouldn't it be fun to see the Iron Hills of Michigan? Wouldn't it be fun? Not a single one of us, all of us Southern Californians, not a single one of us wanted to go anywhere near the South. Because we grew up with all these images, and it was a scary place. I mean, you'd open the newspaper one day, and you'd find that a couple more civil rights workers were murdered.
Not even Florida?
No, not even Florida.
The beaches of Florida, nothing?
Oh, come on. I grew up in coastal California. We have lovely beaches. Why would I want to go to Florida?
The Everglades?
Nope.
Not even.
Crocodiles.
No.
The French Quarter of New Orleans?
Maybe
Well,
that.
maybe that.
Yeah, I've never been there. That would be cool. I've been to Florida. The beaches are okay, but I mean,
Oh, speaking of that, another story. So my dad got drafted during World War II when he was 30 years old with high blood pressure at that. And he was supposed to go into the Navy. He ended up in the Army. Long, weird story. So my mom went to visit him, and he was stationed in, I don't remember, I think Louisiana, I'm pretty sure. And so they assigned a place for her to stay, right? So she went to this, where she was supposed to stay, and she settled in and whatever. And she noticed that most of her neighbors were black, but she didn't think anything about it. My mom came from what is actually, it's Yankton, South Dakota. It's a big city for South Dakota, but it actually has a fairly decent black population. They run the pharmacy, and, she didn't think anything about that. So, she was later talking to some people in the Army and saying, oh, yeah, I'm staying at. They were horrified. They totally freaked out because they put a white woman in with black people.
Oh,
and
dear.
my mom's like, well, what's the difference? I mean, she's from South Dakota, and then she moved, she didn't understand what the big difference was, why it was so upsetting. And all these people totally freaked out, and they suddenly moved her out of that place into another place. Because, oh my God, they put a white woman in with black people. And that was one of her first introductions to this mindset, because it was so alien to her. It just.
Where did this happen?
Louisiana, I'm pretty sure. And my mom was, I said, from South Dakota. Where, I mean, I know South Dakota is very, isolated in many ways, and there aren't a lot of people of different. I mean, let's face it, they make fun of the Swedes in South Dakota. That's, they're dumb. Anybody who's a Norski is dumb. But it just so happens it's the city she was raised in, the city I was born in, had a fairly substantial black population, and they were professional people. Nobody had a problem. Well, I wouldn't say nobody had a problem, but it was just they were normal people. My mom didn't think of people of a different race as being different. That wasn't her upbringing. So when she ended up in Louisiana during World War II, she was just flabbergasted. She didn't want to be moved. She thought, oh, good, I could learn about new people. But they insisted on immediately moving her out of that housing because the Army people were horrified. And my mom was really upset. She was so angry that they moved her. She continued to talk about it even when I was a little kid, which was years later, like 10 years later or whatever, because she couldn't understand that mindset. Why would they be horrified? It's just neighbors. But yeah.
I don't know how much of that's true, but I often heard that the civil rights movements in the United States sort of began when the African Americans of America essentially liberated France and were in other European countries, and discovered that when they were over there, they were not treated the same way that they were in America. They figured, well, wait a minute, shouldn't we have more rights?
Well, I think
I've often been told that, but I don't know how.
I'm sure it contributed to it, because a lot of African Americans went to France and Italy, and found that nobody paid any attention to the fact that their skin was darker. They were Americans, and they would be cheered. But not only that, you had the the Tuskegee Airmen.
Actually, let me jump in for 1 second here.
Okay.
When I moved down to Texas, it was a massive, massive culture shock for me.
Oh, I bet.
And part of why it was such a huge culture shock was that was kind of the mentality, okay, there are some people that have a different skin color, big deal, who cares? So it's kind of where I came from. Mm-hmm. But down here, when I'd meet significantly older black gentlemen, a lot of the time they'd seem cowed whenever they'd try to speak to me, and that made me really uncomfortable, and it struck me as really strange. I mean, after coming down here, I'll talk to some people that, very old, very venerable, very wizened with age, black gentlemen, and they'll have their head low and they'll be stern and all this other stuff, and I'm like, just don't talk to me like that. That's weird. Just talk to me like a person. Come on.
Well, I think they've been conditioned to that. Yeah. Because if you talk back to a white man, you could get killed.
But to me, it was just such a weird culture growing up in the North.
It would have been for me too, and I mean, you're younger than I am, and I've never encountered that sort of thing.
I never knew until it came down here, though.
Let's face it, I had friends who were in the Black Panther Party, so I'm used to a different attitude.
Yeah.
Oh, I told you about that.
Mostly, rural Texas, but
right.
Weird.
I think
How rampant is racism in Texas? Because like one of my best friends on the internet, that is Texan. He's in Huntsville, and his in-laws are openly racist, like completely racist. Like he goes to visit his in-laws for Thanksgiving and such, and it's monkey jokes about Obama and all.
Mm-hmm.
And like he doesn't really know how to, like, he can't make it stop. But anyways, that's not really the point. The point being is that they're completely overtly racist, in like they're not hiding it.
Yeah, and I grew up in the Northeast where you don't say these things, and if you do, and if you come across somebody saying such things, you ridicule the crap out of them.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Nobody wanted to be seen as Archie Bunker, basically. Archie Bunker was like the cautionary tale that everyone like, ooh, you don't want to be like him. No.
Yeah, that's the way I grew up too. The only racial jokes I heard growing up were against racists.
Yeah.
Look what a dumb fuck he is, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And my mother is racist, but in a really nice way, if that makes sense. So
yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like she'll just be like, all like, well, those people or whatever. And but like when she talks to them in person, she'll be like the nicest person ever, and she'll be willing to like.
It's more of a condescending racism.
I don't know what it is. It's just like this part of her that thinks she's different, but at the same time she respects everybody individually as. I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is with my mom because I didn't even recognize it till my mid-20s.
Charles, let me chime in for a second, and sure. I know that this is a different situation, obviously, and different people, but my parents, in their own way, were racist too, but in a quiet, fairly polite way. It's just that they were raised with a different viewpoint. Yep. But when I brought a friend of mine home on one occasion, my parents go, "Oh, you didn't tell us that Vinny was black. Oh, it's so nice that you have a black friend."
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's kind of bordering on, but whatever. They're not upset about it. They're not or anything like this. It's just they're making too weird a deal out of it.
I think. Yeah, I mean the thing is, we grew up in a neighborhood that had we have a lot of, well, my mom she still lives there, and there are a lot of Egyptians and East Indians and things, and I remember I was maybe only 8 or 9 years old, and I remember there was a killing, where a guy killed his wife and his kids and somebody else because and he basically said that he was justified in doing it because it was all Sharia law. So I remember that happening, and I remember it being a big thing. It was on the news, it was all over the place, and that happened in our neighborhood. And that was the sort of thing that would make my mother say things like, "Well, those people." It's almost like my mom's not racist, but she's extremely bigoted against people of other religious beliefs. I almost think that's more what it is.
My mother is Islamophobic, flat out.
Yeah, and
people say the word is a myth, but she actually is Islamophobic.
Yeah. And I think it's
and it's also the same way with Mormons. She still thinks all Mormons are polygamists. All Mormons are polygamists.
Yeah,
I she's a 76-year-old woman. I try to nuance things and say no, they're not all polygamists. That's only a very minority. That's a small minority of Mormons that refuse to change when they change the doctrines. Anyways, you try to nuance it, and she's really set in her ways with those things. But yeah.
Well, could I, in defense of old people, since I am one,
Oh, please.
I'd like to point out that it depends on where you were raised, and yeah, a lot of people, there were people like me, again, growing up in Southern California, who grew up watching, the civil rights movement and horrified by the things that were happening, and it's just astonishing. Even to this day, we don't teach it very well. People have no idea just how common death was. Just not long ago on Facebook, there was a 60-year retrospective of the civil rights movement because 1964 to 2014, and they were publishing every day stories from back then. For instance, there was one guy who was a white civil rights worker, and he was in the South. I don't remember where, and somebody knocked on the door. He opened the door, and the guy had a shotgun, and he wanted to kill the black people with him. The white guy stood in front of the black people, and the guy killed him, shot him, and killed him with a shotgun, shot some of the black people as well. He then went down to the sheriff, handed the sheriff the shotgun, and turned himself in, and said, "I just shot some," I don't remember what he called him, but, and of course nothing happened to him because the guy was a sheriff's deputy.
Wow.
He just committed cold-blooded murder, but nothing happened because the white and a lot of them were Jewish too, which added to the problems, and a fair number were Catholics as well, which also added to the problems because the South was still very anti-Catholic and anti-Semitic, and so but they were considered carpetbaggers because they were interfering in our states. They were interfering in the way we do things down here, and it was just simply to try to get people to vote. There was a famous joke at that time because the government kept ruling against all these different. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the gay marriage thing right now, as people kept trying to pass laws to stop it, and then the government would say, "No, you can't do that." So the different states would try to pass laws to prevent black people from voting. And one of the ones they did was a literacy test. You had to pass a literacy test before you were allowed to vote. So the story goes, there was this one state, and they'd passed a literacy test, and a bunch of black folks were around, and they were talking about it. Says, anybody want to go down there and vote? I'm a little bit afraid to try it because these people are, they're enforcing their literacy test, and those aren't very nice people. So an older black gentleman said, well, you know what? Look, I've known most of those boys most of my life. Tell you what, I'll go down there and I'll try to vote. We'll see how this goes. So he goes down to the polling place, and he said, I'd like to vote. And they said, well, you got to pass the literacy test first. And he says, okay, fine. And they say, well, we need you to write out the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. He goes, well, I can do that. And they went, really? You can't? He says, yeah. So they hand him a piece of wax paper and a crayon. Well, that didn't work out too well. And he said, well, I guess I can't do that. They said, well, we got a reading test too. He says, all right, I can do that. And they hand him a Chinese language newspaper.
Oh,
and he looks at
you're kidding me.
And he looks at it and says, well, I can't read the small print, but I can read the headlines. And they were shocked. They, what do you mean? You can read the headlines? And he goes, yep. Well, what's it say? It says black folks aren't going to get to vote again this year.
Oh, my God.
But they really did do things like that. They would pass a literacy test. They would do this, that, and the other thing to try to keep black people from voting. And this is what a lot of it was about. And people were, from the north were going down there and trying to help people vote and trying to escort them to the polls because there was a less of a chance that they were going to beat up some white northerners than they would some black southerners. So, but then there were like the guy I told you about. He's a sheriff's deputy. He just knocked on the door and...
Oh, let's not forget about the poll tax. Well, before we get to...
Oh, yeah, the poll tax. You're right. That's another one. Yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, there have been all kinds of weird... And to some degree, with the influx of Hispanic...
How did the strip clubs survive?
With the
they didn't have them.
Oh, poll tax. Yeah. You guys are just saying... about to call it...
With the Spanish influx, we're seeing essentially the equivalent of such measures starting to creep in again. And go ahead, Carson.
Yeah.
I was just going to say I'm about to call it a night.
Okay.
All right. How's that going?
Good night.
Good night, beautiful.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night,
Good
Jack.
night, Carson.
So
They're
sweet.
playing those little games again now with ID.
Carson.
Oh, Okay, I'm
BPA.
calling it a night too.
Alrighty.
Fine.
Right, Jackie. I think
I might be back.
Go chat.
Yeah, we know you're both going to leave at the same time. We know that story.
And then you're gonna talk until you fall asleep on the phone, and then you wake up hours
comes
later
up.
going, "Oh, my long distance bill's gonna be so big."
Very funny. That's what the internet's for.
Oh,
Never talk on
fair
it.
enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. So, yeah, you did well to stay this long, Jackie, as sleepy as you were.
Yeah, I'm like about to fall asleep, so I needed to talk to my boyfriend.
That's
All right.
Okay, good night, both of you. Puppies, yeah. Dream of puppies. And Kevin.
I will. I will. Good night.
Jackie gone yet? Yeah. Get out.
Now that Jackie's gone, we can bring out the puppies.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
there you go.
Yay!
I've been keeping them suppressed all this time.
Well, I have puppies too.
Oh,
but
those
we'll talk
puppies. Okay.
Oh, those.
2 puppies.
Take out those
I
puppies anytime, sure.
Yeah, I have 2 puppies myself. Yes.
Not sure how Google feels about that, but
Oh,
Yes.
that's a point. I might have to actually take down the shuffleboard to do that. So no.
oh,
We will keep it a standard shuffle. We will keep it a standard shuffle.
Release the hounds.
But at least Lenny's not in here to show us Lawless's tits again.
Oh yeah.
That was funny. I'm like, dude, now I have to put this one. Now I have to delete this one. He's like, oh shit, sorry.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Well, I don't want to show anybody. I don't want to show anybody my tits because all those young women would be jealous that an old broad my age has this.
Yes, we know how often you mute yourself.
Yes, I know. You can tell, can't you?
The infamous boob mute.
Yeah, the very infamous boob mute. They have a mind of their own. What can I say?
There was at least one occasion that she's like, I've been talking for 20 minutes and nobody's been able to hear me. I'm like, okay.
Like it's a great loss.
Very muffled myself.
The mute button says, all your boobs are belong to us. Okay.
That's good. I like that. Oh, that's true. That's true.
There we go.
Benaberry, release the hounds. I don't dare.
yeah.
Nothing on Q&A. Wow, without Barry in the chat section, there really isn't anything in Q&A now. That's funny.
What would anybody ask?
You know what to do. Kick Benna out.
There you go.
We have Ben in here. We have Faithless in here. You know, most of the usual candidates, yeah.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, Faithless posted, entertain me, and I was in here. I was like, oh shit, how do I do that?
Oops. Made a mess.
Yeah, one of the weird claims I think for the shuffle is, yes, we've had Benaberry actually speak in shuffles.
Yeah.
I know.
Done.
And Benna Berry has a great Paul Hogan impression. Go ahead.
No, you know. Oh, really?
As if anyone remembers what Paul Hogan sounds like.
Put a shrimp on the Barbie. That's all I remember.
Is that impersonation or is that?
That's not a
No,
knife.
that's not an impersonation. That's just
No,
the only.
I'm saying
But there was such an Australian craze in the 80s. Like, was there this Energizer guy in the commercials as well? And
There was a bunny, wasn't it? Might have been.
no, but before
I
the
think
bunny,
there
there was an Energizer guy. Anyway,
I think so. Yeah. No, there was a big Australian craze. You know, Paul Hogan and his movies, and put a shrimp on the Barbie. All his ads.
Oh yeah.
Come visit Australia. Well, we'll put a shrimp on the Barbie. And I'm a Californian. Okay, we barbecue everything, but I'd never heard of barbecuing shrimp.
and then the 90s happened. And
I live in Calgary and we barbecue shrimp.
Yeah, but the barbecuing shrimp came later.
Oh, we barbecue everything here though.
Yeah. Well, we do
prawn
too,
on the Barbie.
Well,
Yeah.
but hang on. At what point in history did they stop barbecuing dinosaurs, though?
Well, if I remember my 5th birthday correctly.
Oh, okay.
I remember.
Actually, we still do barbecue dinosaurs, except nowadays we barbecue the little ones. They're called chickens.
Yeah, that's true.
Pictures of Barbie on the Barbie.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good. I like that.
Barbecue, is that when you ask Barbie a question?
Hmm.
Dun dun dun.
And by then she doesn't have any hair.
But I was going to say, you notice there's no A to that. There's just a Q. Barbecue, you ask Barbie a question, you get no A.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think there's enough A.
Yeah, but she's not Canadian.
Yeah, there is that, I suppose.
Oh, did I do this wrong?
Yes, you did.
Okay, thank you.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'll just agree with you.
I'm making gopher cages again, and I think I made this one a little off, but that's okay. It'll work. They're for fucking gophers. I mean, they're to keep
gophers aren't going to be all that critical.
Yes, I know, you're absolutely right. Oh,
In
my
fact,
goodness.
If you screw up, the gophers will be happy, I think. So
I know.
don't worry about
No,
it.
I just... Every once in a while, I do these so often, I get into, just sort of like doing it automatically, and occasionally I get because, it's 1-inch chicken wire, you wrap it around in a circle, and you put it together, and so every once in a while I get off by a row or something like that, and it's not a big deal. But yeah, you're right, if I were to get if I were to actually do it wrong, the gophers would be thrilled.
Well, just be careful and don't button it up.
Yeah. Well, they plowed some of the fields around my house, at least on 2 sides. The ones behind me they didn't plow, and they plowed under all the old black raspberries. And so, I think when they did that, they destroyed a lot of the gopher habitat. The gopher tunnels and what have you, because there haven't been a lot of gophers this year. Either that or it's the warm weather, but there's still lots of plants, so I think it's because they plowed the field. Now, I've also had a bit more
too many
of a
golf
problem with
courses.
mice.
Never mind. I missed my Caddyshack shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, your Caddyshack, yeah. Oh, I know. I have to admit, I'm not a huge Caddyshack fan. I never have been, but I do love the gopher.
Mm-hmm.
I've fought gophers for so many years, and not only that, this is California, so we don't just have gophers, we have the fucking ground squirrels.
Yep.
Aw, they're so cute.
What do
They are.
ground
They're a
squirrels
menace.
climb?
Ground squirrels are kind of like chipmunks.
Oh.
No, they look like regular squirrels.
Oh.
They live in tunnels in the ground.
Okay, the ground squirrels they have up in Colorado look more like chipmunks to me.
I think I know which ones you're talking about, yeah. The ones we have here look a lot like squirrels, and they're about the same size as a squirrel, but they live in underground tunnels.
Do they still have fluffy tails?
Yes, they do.
So they're rats with fluffy tails.
They're rats with fluffy tails. No, they're gophers with fluffy tails.
Are they crunchy like squirrels?
I don't know. I haven't eaten one yet. I've shot a few with my little handy 22 pellet gun. I trap them, and when they get out of hand, I trap them and kill them. And I'm very humane. I put a bullet in their skulls. Well, it's a 22 pellet pistol, but it's a bullet, so I don't hurt them or anything.
Why are you making me think of the Beverly Hillbillies theme now?
Yeah, I don't eat squirrel.
Let me tell you a story about a man named Jed. Had a lot of hair, but it wasn't on his head. Then one day he went shooting for some food, and up from the ground came a red-headed nude. Texas tea. Oh, next thing you know, old Jed in the bed, huffing and a puff until his balls turned red. Then comes Bernie with a 10-foot pole, shoved up Jed, the asshole.
Oh no!
That is no mercy.
I
do that.
Yeah, I never liked that TV show.
I think I've ran off most of the viewers now.
Yeah. Well, I didn't like the beginning of it either when they're in that big truck and everything. I guess.
Stupid.
Well, no, I guess it's funny to a lot of people, but it's not funny to relatives who lived through, to people like me who had relatives who lived through the Depression, and who are well aware that when you usually saw trucks like that, it meant starving people escaping from the Dust Bowl. And that just rubbed me wrong. On top of which I really never liked the show.
Again,
Huh?
Ruined. I can't watch that show ever again. It's ruined now.
Oh, sorry about that.
That used to be the #1 show in Australia. James.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Probably was. Yeah, I think it was always repeat. When I came home from school, that was on. It was like that, Hogan's Heroes.
Another show I hated.
I always
Ah,
had Flintstones,
MASH.
Star Trek, Next Generation.
Yeah, Mad Magazine did a wonderful takeoff of Hogan's Heroes once that just stuck in my mind. It was, you know, they were like, oh, wow, we're getting... Yeah, I mean, the Nazis. I mean, seriously? You're making a TV show about Nazis? I mean, the Holocaust? Are you guys fucking idiots? But the Mad Magazine version ended up with them, wow, we're getting so many viewers, let's change the theme, and we're now in a concentration camp, and it's Hogan's, you know, heroes in a concentration camp. But, like, fuck, how could you find that funny? I just never did.
I liked it. But I was from a different generation.
Yeah, you're a different generation, really, and that was the thing. I think, you know, for a lot of people that they're not aware of that, but my generation, I remember the first time I saw a woman in the park with a tattoo on her arm.
Yeah.
From Auschwitz.
Those tattoos.
Those tattoos, yeah. So it was just something that I didn't find appealing for that reason.
There's an old story from up in the Northeast. It hit the news and everything. That this idiot went up to try and rob this old couple that was just walking down the street, and he goes up there, points a gun in their face, "Give me your money," kind of thing. And the old man goes, turns to the young man who's trying to rob them and says, "I was in Auschwitz. You think that little pea shooter's gonna scare me? Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
Chases him down the
But
street.
yeah,
and says, "Get out of here!"
I know, you pisher. But I mean, I did see some. I mean, I did see some episodes of Hogan's Heroes. It was very funny, but always in the back of my mind, what was going on elsewhere. Just for that reason, I couldn't find it funny. I mean, I couldn't find the show appealing.
What year did that come out?
It was in the 1960s. Don't remember what year. I'm pretty sure it was the 60s.
Your type was Bilko?
Oh, yeah, I loved Sergeant Bilko. And Doberman?
I don't know what that is.
Doberman was the
Gomer
dumb guy.
Pyle.
Well, no, yeah, Gomer, that also, I didn't like that. But that's because I didn't like the whole, shucks, Jim Neighbors character. I never liked Jim Neighbors' character.
Huh.
And being a Southern Californian, I could not relate whatsoever to Mayberry.
Well, what about Desert Rat? Wait, was that what it's called?
Oh no, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about where they were running around the desert in
Dune buggies, basically.
Yeah, I actually, to give you an idea, I actually have copies of that on my hard drive. Yes, I love that one.
Why does that not surprise me?
What's really cool about that is if you ever Rat Patrol.
Rat Patrol, thank you.
Yeah, what's really cool about that, if you watch that, is there were no regards for safety whatsoever during World War II. So the guy on the back of the Jeep, right, has his hands on this great big gun, right? He's got both hands on the gun, and he's like standing on the back of the Jeep, and they're tearing across the desert. He's just bouncing up and down. Nothing's tying him to the Jeep whatsoever. He's just bouncing up and down on the back of the Jeep. And you're like, why the fuck doesn't he fall off? But no, yeah, I have copies of Rat Patrol. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff themed back then, and part of the thing with Hogan's Heroes was, of course, and some people will criticize it, going, "Well, they were cute Nazis. The Nazis weren't cute," but at the same point, it was kind of the regular quasi. I just blanked on the word, damn it. Anyway, it was the whole thing of they're incompetent, and was more so the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they really were incompetent, it wouldn't have been so bad. However, there was a certain truth to that I later discovered when I got a little older, because I went through a period in my 20s where I just read everything I could about the Nazis because I was horrified by this whole thing that happened, and I'm half German, so I was like, how could people, I mean, I knew all my German relatives, how could people, any people do this? So I spent a lot of time reading about the Nazis and the Third Reich, a lot of which I've forgotten, of course.
I almost wish in terms of school curriculum that they actually bother to do more than just do a glance as footnote in history almost with what it's
Yeah.
talking place. Because with things like that, it's like, yeah, this was a horrible time period, but I think it's important to know, what led up to it, what the different factors.
Very important. Yeah, starting with the Treaty of Versailles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jade, you studied that for years, and you found out. So which one was it? The Christians
Okay.
or the atheists? Who caused it?
Oh, they both did. Well, considering most people at the time were Christian, you'd have to put it on the heads of the Christians. However, a lot of the people, the leaders of the Third Reich, were really very pagan in their beliefs. They were actually developing their own sort of occult pagans with some Christian thrown in kind of religion.
And
even
I got to speak up in regards to the whole Darwin thing that you hear a lot, claiming that
yeah.
Darwinism leads to this, when in actuality what was really taught was that there were the ones that were essentially created by God were the Aryan race, and the Jews, etc. They were the ones that evolved, and that viewpoint is just bizarre.
Right, or they were created by the devil, depending on which version you looked at. Yeah, no, that Darwin had almost nothing to do with the Third Reich, and Hitler actually put.
If you were to cite anyone as being partially involved, you'd have to go to Sir Francis Galton, which granted was a cousin to Charles Darwin, but he didn't understand evolution worth a damn, and his whole thing was animal husbandry, and he was regarded as the father of eugenics.
Right, but his views weren't that outrageous if you actually read them rather than go, Galton eugenics. People don't understand what eugenics was then. But if you really want to go to anyone who began all this, go to Malthus.
No. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it was Malthusian philosophy. And Malthus felt that the reason that the poor did not succeed was, well, God did it, so to speak. I'm being really loose here.
Practices along the lines of eugenics can be traced all the way back to ancient Sparta and earlier.
Oh yes, but I'm going back to a more direct, lineage in terms of. But you're right. But people have always thought that their particular race was superior.
Jade, because the thing is, when you're dealing with Germany during that time period, it more parallels ancient Rome with the notion of, bronze souls and gold souls, I think it was?
Yeah, but ancient Rome was certainly more inclusive.
Well, it was, but at the same point, in terms of the views of the differences in people, it even necessarily color, this and that, it was, different souls, basically. And the poor were the bronze souls, and the higher class, and they had it broken down very differently, but they didn't practice eugenics. They had similar notions.
Yes, you're right. And what's really interesting is you remember I told you I've been doing this work on misinformation, and one of the things that they did was, for instance, this thing from the Victorian web I've got. It said this fellow said, like, the Irish, the Welsh, and significantly the lower class people were among the prognathous. They're talking about the shape of the skulls. Whereas all men of genius were orthognathous. That Beddoe developed an index of nigrescence, from which he argued that the Irish were close to Cro-Magnon man and thus had links with the Africanoid races. This is during the Victorian era. There's a whole bunch of this information about the attitudes towards races during the Victorian era. So this had nothing whatsoever to do with Darwin. And, when you get to Malthus, as I said, I've done all this research for this thing I'm doing. He felt that, like, famine and poverty were natural outcomes, and the ultimate reason for these outcomes was divine institution. He felt that such natural outcomes were God's way of preventing man from being lazy. But he also felt that, being a compassionate sort of soul, he felt that you needed to limit the number of children that the poor had for their own benefit. But of course they didn't.
Droughts were caused by laziness.
Well,
exactly. Yeah.
The founders of Planned Parenthood were actually really big on eugenics in terms of the early movement of it. Now they took a more positive route, which is to basically want to make sure that the poor people were provided with birth control and this kind of stuff, so they wouldn't just, so they'd have a choice whether to reproduce or not, and be able to say, okay, we've had enough kids, it's time to stop, while still being able to have sex.
Right, and one of the things that you will see a lot of creationists misstate this whole thing about the early, the founders of Planned Parenthood and the leader whose name escapes me at the moment. The founder of Planned Parenthood, for some reason her name isn't coming to mind. Someone else's name is coming to mind. That always happens to me. I want to think of one person and somebody else jumps into my head and blocks that out. But, they try to associate her and Planned Parenthood with racism because a lot of their early efforts were focused on blacks in, like, New York, I think. The part they leave out of the story is that she had the support of a lot of black ministers. They too...
Margaret Sanger?
Margaret Sanger, yes, thank you. And they, too, wanted to give their people an option to not have so many children. But when you hear the creationists talk about this, and this is all somehow about how evolution causes what the fuck, but they leave out the fact that she had the support of the black leadership.
I've also heard some people claiming that this was some kind of attempt to, quietly exterminate. It was weird shit.
Right, but if it was an attempt to quietly exterminate black people or whatever, why did all these black ministers support her? And that makes no sense.
Yeah.
What it was is she was going, look, birth control, it's a good idea, and these black ministers who were educated men looked at this and went, this is what we need in our population. We need to have a choice. We need to stop having, people being stuck having all these children that they can't afford. So let's work with her, let's work with Margaret Sanger and introduce birth control into the black population. But they leave out that part of it, and you're right, they make it sound like it's some sort of black genocide. There are some people who go so far as to say that Planned Parenthood was started as a form of black genocide or of eugenics in some way or another. And again, they're leaving out a great big huge chunk of the story. Oh, but let me go back to Hogan's Heroes for a moment.
Okay.
The point I was going to make that I discovered was actually to some truth. There was actually some fact to Hogan's Heroes. Is what happened because they sent all the really good officers to the front, that they ended up with a lot of doofuses in charge of various camps. And sometimes the guards of the camps were people who were recruited, including concentration camps, were people who were recruited, quote unquote, from the local towns.
Yeah.
And the choice was, you're going to be a guard at the camp or we'll exterminate your family. Which is your choice? Oh, I'm going to be a guard at the camp. So there is a certain truth to that. And yes, in a way, Hogan's Heroes was like very subversive because they were like voluntarily staying in the camp so that they could fight against the Nazis from inside the camp. Nevertheless, I understand all that. Nevertheless, the show made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and that was just my personal opinion.
I just didn't expect this conversation to go on quite this long, but that's okay.
Well, I just wanted to go back.
Sort of, how do you you can't truly be efficient at fighting the Nazis if you're stuck in their camps.
Right. Well, it was a fantasy.
I know, but
yeah. Well, the way that it was basically laid out is that being in the camp, they got information that they were able to send back, and they had
of course because headquarters sends all their important battle planes to the.
I hate it. It was a comedy, dude.
But also because the leadership was incompetent, which they said that part was actually somewhat true.
Yeah,
they tended to send the incompetents and the psychopaths, who they couldn't trust leading a group of men to run the camps, because and not all of the camps, but yes, some of them. So there was a certain truth to that, which I found interesting when I discovered that. But yeah. Oh dear God, we've invoked Godwin all over the place.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, I know. But at least we did it in a reasonable fashion, I think. Yeah.
Wait. That was not Godwin's law. Godwin's law is when you invoke Nazis as a metaphor.
You're right. You're correct.
In any case,
so Australians, like, what's going on with that? It's like the Nazis.
Well, we have commentary from Benaberry in the sideline looking for speculation, I believe, and he has to talk in the sideline because Jade won't give him a chance to speak.
Well, you know, let me tell you, for those people who know me well, all you have to do is say the magic words. What are the magic words?
Shut up, Jade.
That's it. Thank you, Shar.
Oh, I could never say that.
Oh, yeah, you can. You just don't know her well enough. Give it time.
It's an interesting question, though.
I'm fine with it. Honest, I'm fine with it.
Jade, enough. Whatever, do you want to actually ask the panel to speculate on that? Or is that close?
That's right. Enough, Jade. It doesn't matter if you're fine with it or not. Just
be fine quietly.
No, I was just wondering what the world would look like if Nazis had won.
It's actually kind of an interesting question. Of course, my mind immediately goes to this dystopian world that, you know, I go ultra sci-fi with it, but it is a weird question to try and think what would the world be like. And I kind of latched onto it. I'm thinking, well, other than very white and pasty, I don't know.
But I think at some point, after a few years, it would have turned more progressive and sort of strayed away from the extreme policies they would have started with.
Well, that's the thing is, I don't really necessarily think...
Because it wouldn't have been truly sustainable to be that...
Eventually you run out of people to hate?
Right. Or they don't need... because you could, if you want to simplify things, and of course Jade could correct me if we allowed her to speak, but it's a simplifying thing, but like the hatred of the Jews, they were acting sort of they were just a scapegoat at first for all of Germany's troubles post World War I.
There was also a very strong Catholic population, and
well, yeah, the Jew hate was already there, but I mean,
yeah, I mean
they did purposely. It was convenient to use that as a scapegoat, basically. It's all because of the Jews. That was very convenient for them.
It's kind of an easy pill to swallow too, considering the level of, at the time in particular.
But after winning World War II, presumably, they wouldn't need a scapegoat anymore.
Well, it was after World War II.
They would have said, okay, now we've solved the Jew problem.
It wasn't until after World War II that the Vatican's quote forgave the Jews for quote killing Jesus.
Well, or perhaps my faith in humanity is too strong that I would have figured like we've had regimes in the past that were terrible, sometimes in our own lineage, and we outgrow those regimes.
I mean,
That's what I mean. So I figured like it wouldn't have the Nazi regime and philosophy would probably not have remained unchanging, like for 100 years.
No.
Nothing static would survive, right? Everything changes and evolves, so they couldn't be maintained.
Right.
So anyway, in one country in Europe, they recently had a Miss Hitler pageant.
Yeah, that was. I think that was Ukraine.
Yep.
You just made me lose a little bit of my faith in humanity. I mentioned.
Sorry.
But it's really the documentary HBO made about the gays in Russia that really was a hard knock. If you haven't seen that, it's still terrible. It's still a must see in my opinion. I know I talked about it like 2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah.
But it's a must see. Like it's because of the law that says you're not allowed to defend gays. You're not allowed to have any pro-gay agenda. It's against the law in Russia now.
Yeah.
So basically, anyone who tries to stop bullying of gays, or in case of Russia, they have that basically do the to catch a predator, but they do it in a way where they entrap gays and then beat them up by tricking them into coming on a date, and they film that and put that on the internet. And that's entertainment and fun. Yeah, it's mind-blowing. It's shocking. And basically, if you try to stop that, if you try to denounce that, you can be subject to the anti-gay propaganda law, where now you're defending the gays. So you're the one who gets prosecuted, not them. What they're doing is not against the law. I suppose you could say there's assault, but I don't know. They feel there's always a lack of evidence, but
it's bizarre.
Yeah, it's really so you figure, okay, you're not allowed. It's as if you're trying to do the civil rights movement, except that you're not allowed to to vocalize a pro-civil rights agenda.
Yeah.
You wonder, well, how do you even do this?
I think that's the point.
Yeah. And the theory, or rather the hypothesis, that they put forth in that documentary is that they're using the gays as the scapegoat in Russia right now. And like things are not going well. Well, it's the gays' fault.
Here's a distraction. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, and perhaps I'm not as optimistic about humanity as you are, Faithless. Funny that the one that uses the name Faithless is the one that has more faith in this regard. But the problem is that there are people like, well, frankly, the majority of us, actually probably all of us in this room, and hopefully most of the people watching this, that will look at these kind of things and think it's horrible, but at the same point there seems to be a broad section of society that seems to need there to be them, that infamous other, and focuses so much on whoever these mythical others are. And when there isn't anyone tangible to put in that role, there's this amorphous them, It's this weird throwback to tribalism.
Yeah, there's
back thousands of years ago at how, people fought amongst different tribes or different nations or different religions or what have you. And we still have that.
Yeah, it seems the easiest way to unite a group is to find an enemy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who the enemy is. It doesn't matter if they're made up or real. So long as there's some kind of enemy that we can unite a group against.
And there almost seems to be a need within certain demographics. I don't mean demographics in the standard sense, but there seem to be a lot of people out there that need that other, that person to hate, that person to fight, that person to be opposed to, just to do anything. It's all about those dark things.
Is that a self-identity problem? Like you need others to self-identify?
Is the wine any good?
I mean,
I thought I heard a wine glass, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you were correct. You were correct. Yeah. Is the wine good? Yeah, it's good.
The other speculation and the one that I usually go with when discussing this kind of thing, is that there are those that that the only way they can think to elevate themselves is to denigrate someone else.
Yeah, you suck, therefore I'm bitter.
Yeah. The only way they can feel better about themselves is to put somebody else down, and that's kind of crap.
Oh.
If that's the only way you can feel good about yourself, there's something wrong with you.
So you're just saying that my method of feeling good about myself is crap. That's your way of feeling good about yourself.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm just being contrary.
That's okay. But it's perfectly fine, and I'll take that, of course, with a grain of salt that it's intended with. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, and I'll get frustrated and rag on people and this and that. That doesn't necessarily make me feel better about myself. But there are people that, without having that other, without having that person to put down, it's like that's the only way they seem to be able to really deal with themselves, and that's, yeah. Anyway, you get where I'm going.
Yeah. Jade?
And the problem is, I mean, you can go down to smaller.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Going back briefly to Germany on this and that whole notion.
Yes.
Because I feel like I should tie this in a little bit of a bow.
Those Jade spoke so long, and she did. Did she mention what the cause was? Well, how the people can act that way? Okay, well, do your point first.
What I was going to say is that it doesn't matter who the group is. We can always make another. And wasn't it George Orwell's that they were fighting a war against somebody that may or may not even exist, the Eternal War and all this other crap?
That was somewhat the case in 1984.
No, I'm talking about the book.
Oh.
Orwell.
Yeah.
If you don't have a real enemy, make one up. Anyway, Jade, you can talk now.
here. Well, you were doing just fine without me.
No, we usually do.
I know. You are just fine without me, and I know that. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I've been playing with Freddy. Freddy decided to crawl into my lap. He wants me to feed him. He's had enough food for the day, but he wants more. He wants more. Because he's a cat, and that's his nature.
Yes, but did you want to weigh in?
Oh, well, yeah, actually, you guys were covering everything that,
Right. Well, my specific question was that we started speaking of the Nazis, notably because you had begun your research to try and find the reason how could such a people end up basically losing their moral compass enough to do this, right?
Well, it didn't
how does
start
that
automatically.
work?
Right, it didn't start automatically. And it really did start with the loss, Germany's loss in the First World War. The First World War was nobody's fault. Added to it the Treaty of Versailles, which demanded that Germany pay reparations for losing the war.
Mm-hmm.
And added to that was a worldwide depression, which happened right at the same time. And during that time, I remember reading one report where it said it took like a wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of bread in Germany.
Yeah, well, what happened was virtually overnight, the Deutschmark dropped to the point that, it went from like, 2 marks for a loaf of bread to 800 for a loaf of bread, virtually overnight. Germany, in terms of the reparations, tried to see if they could make arrangements to pay it out over time, and this was denied.
Right. And you also need a place where to light the spark, and it has to be a place with a lot of tinder. And you had that in Munich. In Munich at the time, and remember you had a lot of young men go off to fight a war.
Yeah.
Because their country asked them to go off and fight a war. They then came home very disheartened because they lost the war. Many of them were injured during the war. World War I was horrific. A lot of people were gassed and had permanent injuries from the gassing. A lot of the men found themselves in trenches. I don't know how many of you ever read All Quiet on the Western Front. It's really well worth reading. It was required reading when I was a kid. It's actually written by a German about World War I, and but the trenches were horrible. People got all sorts of diseases: cholera, typhoid, typhus. Diarrhea was constant. Rats ran everywhere. On top of which, they were hiding in the trenches, listening to not only their colleagues but people from the other side scream in pain in what was called the no man's land. At times, people would come up and cross across the trenches with flamethrowers. I don't know how many of you have ever seen the TV series Young Indiana Jones, but one of the episodes really struck me because in this, young Indiana Jones went to fight in trench warfare. I remember he went with the Belgian army because they were the only people who'd take him because he was so young. But he was fighting in trench warfare, and you see this vision of all of the fog that was covering the trenches, and all of a sudden you start to see these splashes of light in the fog, and the splashes of light come stronger and stronger, and then you suddenly realize that just like horrifically, these are flamethrowers coming at you. It's a really, really well crafted bit of theater in that particular episode. So it was horrific. People would climb to the top of the trenches and shoot their friends in the head to try to put them out of their misery. And of course, there was a smell of rotting bodies everywhere. So they went through this just trench warfare, which actually started the American Civil War, by the way.
Okay, Jade.
Okay, but anyway, so the young men, so you have all these young men, and they come home, and not only have they been through this horrific experience, not only have they been damaged, whatever, they can't find jobs. There's no work for them. So you have this idle group of young men hanging around the beer houses and bitching and complaining and talking about how it was England's fault, it was France's fault, and a lot of different groups started at the same time, including the communists. If you look at the history, you'll see there were a lot of different groups that started, and they fought each other. There were fights in the streets, riots in the streets between like the communists and the socialists and the National Socialists and what have you. And Hitler was a very commanding speaker, and he managed to gather a group of men around him, the Brown Shirts, led by Ernst Röhm.
Wait, hang on.
I'm skipping stuff, you understand.
You're skipping some major things here.
Okay, you go for it.
One of which being that Hitler, it wasn't Hitler himself that just rose up and through charisma got people following him, blah, 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 brown shirts. There was a lot more to it in that he was chosen by the Nazi Party. He was groomed for the position.
Yes, but then partly because he was a very compelling speaker.
Yeah, right. It wasn't necessarily his ideas imposed on a party, rather.
Yeah, it was the party
him adopting a party's ideas.
Yeah.
Right, and he was very good at inciting people. He literally incited people to riots. And he got the support of Ernst Röhm and the brown shirts. Yeah. And they were just thugs. And as a matter of fact, he got rid of them during the Night of the Long Knives.
Yes.
Because they were thugs and they were an embarrassment to the party, so he figured a way to get rid of them. Or somebody in the party figured a way to get rid of them, but they did. But so basically he had this army of thugs behind him, and he won. Basically that's a bunch of it. You had a bunch of rats in a pit fighting each other, and the National Socialists won.
Well, he was also, in one point, imprisoned for some of his activities.
Right, right.
But then a year later, he was released because the judge was kind of a Nazi.
Yes, yeah, and basically people felt that they had to take sides. Because it was a bit like prison, in a sense, where you find that you have to be on one side or another, or you're just fresh meat.
But incidentally, another major factor involved with what was going on there was a major change in the cultural paradigm, which had people really upset, which was, this was when industrialization was really coming to Germany. And incidentally, part of what bankrupted Germany was France rolled in and took the main industrial district of Germany, so their production went to shit.
Yeah, they had no income.
The industrialization and all this other stuff and all the rapid cultural changes were part of what happened, because also there's all these changes, and people, well, as we've seen in, modern days, when there's a lot of rapid change, there's a lot of people that get really freaked out by it.
They do. You're right. Yeah, France took the Saar, which was really devastating to Germany. But they also had a government that was forced on them, and that really rankled with the Germans of all status. What really put sort of the cherry on top was that, when Hitler got elected, now I forget the timeline exactly. 13 might remember it better than I do.
Doubtful.
But Hitler got elected, and people were still really suspicious of him. But what he did was he got the, I can't think of the term I want to use.
Oh, he had the backing of Bavarian leadership.
Yeah, he did. But no, what I was talking about is Hindenburg.
Oh.
The Baron von Hindenburg. Hindenburg was like Germany's greatest hero. Everybody adored Hindenburg. And Hitler went to meet Hindenburg, and he got Hindenburg's blessing. Except he really didn't get Hindenburg's blessing because Hindenburg was senile at the time. Yeah. However, the party played it as if Hitler had Hindenburg's blessing and as if he was the anointed one to a certain extent. And that had a lot of people questioning, well, if Hindenburg wants him, if Hindenburg thinks that this is going to bring Germany back to prominence.
Yeah, usual
propaganda had already begun before the war ever did.
What was that?
The propaganda.
Oh yes,
began before the war ever did.
Oh, and during the war, I don't know if you've ever looked into World War I propaganda. It's horrific on both sides. The British said that the Germans would rape your women and kill and eat your babies. The Germans said that the British would rape your women and kill and eat your babies. It was just horrific. So, and they
very believable.
Yeah, and it was. Oh, I've seen it. I spent some time perusing that on both sides, and it's just horrific. The drawings, the terror. The propaganda tried to basically terrorize their own citizenry so that they were all in favor of the war. So that was still in people's minds, especially if you think in Germany, well, maybe they didn't rape our women and kill and eat our children literally, but it seems that that's what they're doing to us now.
Well, if I may jump in here for a moment to try and guide it back toward the initial topic,
right.
Which we were initially getting to what kind of world,
right.
What do you think the world would be like? Now, the history, stuff is, I agree, something that should be taught more of, and people don't understand enough of it. Because I think really the moral of the story is that all that one of these movements needs is a charismatic enough mouthpiece. But then the movement itself, in a manner of speaking, takes over.
Right.
The whole notion of Nazism did not either begin or end with Hitler.
No, and a lot of I remember there was a time when there was a lot of discussion about this by historians, and most at the time, this was years ago, agreed that if Germany had won the war, Hitler probably would not have survived it, because there were a number of attempts on his life, including by Ernst Röhm. Was involved in that, and so were a lot of not Ernst Röhm, the Desert Fox. The Desert Fox.
Yeah, there were. Yes, I'll get to Rommel in a moment.
Rommel, thank you.
Rommel. I was going to say Himmel, but yeah.
What we're referring to at this point, in which they tried to blow him up by strapping a bomb to a table leg.
Right.
That's the one we're referencing here.
Yeah, that's a specific one, but there were at least 2 other attempts on Hitler's life.
Yeah, there was one with him walking off of a plane and somebody tried to just plain shoot him in the face.
Yeah.
And that one failed as well. They tried time and time again, but it was after Project Valkyrie, the infamous bomb by the table leg.
Right.
The table, when the bomb blew up, flipped up in the air, and the table itself blocked the explosion from killing him.
It was just sheer bad luck, so to speak.
Dumb luck.
But the leadership... Okay.
As a result of him surviving that, though, that's when Hitler really upped the ante, and he made the declaration that he survived because God himself had basically authorized or mandated, it was God that saved him. And at this point, he went way the fuck off the deep end, because at this point he thought it basically had the divine right to do what he was doing. Creepy ass shit.
It was creepy as shit. However, the Luftwaffe was about to off him because he had destroyed the Luftwaffe.
Oh yeah.
Hitler after this, I think it was after this, so I don't remember how long after this. Hitler took direct control of the fighting forces. I don't know how many of them, how much, but he basically destroyed the Air Force. Because
this is also around the time he started invading Russia, I believe.
Right. He was a fucking idiot. But yeah, there were Luftwaffe generals who wanted to off him because he destroyed the Air Force. If you remember during the invasion of Normandy, there were hardly any airplanes left, at least in the area, to defend him. There were a couple of guys who were I think there was only 2 planes left, and they still took off and did their part, which is really pretty heroic. But yeah,
Hang on, I'm going to jump in here for a moment. Okay. I just realized we've been running for about 2 hours now, and I might actually get tired at some point.
Okay.
So I'm taking the shuffle online, so I'm going to do the official close, which is just remind everyone, thank you for watching the Insomnia Shuffle. For those of you that are not quite asleep yet, oh well, sorry about that. Help people get to fall asleep for those of you that fall asleep more easily when there are voices going. But regardless of that, what goes on to the shuffle stays in the shuffle, meaning that it will go to unlisted once it is completed, which will be moments from now. But it will still be available to those who comment or share it via Google+. And on that note, have yourselves a great night, and hope you get some sleep.